Do you want to take your life to the next level? Join us as we learn from real people who've overcome real problems with real solutions. Welcome to the Unstoppable Growth Podcast with your hosts, Rebecca and Tim Lindsay.
All right, we are so excited to be with you, Lynden Pelbath, today. We got Rebecca in the house, we got Brian, and Lyndon, of course. I think you did the second round of Unstoppable Growth.
Yeah. Not OG, but almost.
Almost OG.
Yeah.
And there's a joke, of course, because some of our OGs were talking about being the OGs, and one of the OGs thought we were always talking about the old guys.
Oh, no. Well, and some of them are, but but no, OG, the originals. Yeah.
The originals.
We were round two. Yeah.
Round two. And I'm excited. You went through round two, and then you became a coach.
Mm-hmm.
You're part of the Unstoppable team. You take care of the online community called Mighty Networks.
Yep.
And you are also part of the board, making decisions for Unstoppable. So we are honored.
You all get a lot of Lyndon in your lives.
We get a lot of Lyndon. We just said that before we started recording. We've had multiple meetings with Lyndon this week. So, Lyndon, share a little bit just about yourself.
Sure. So,
introduce yourself to our listeners.
Let's see. Moved here about 5-6 years ago. We have been a military family for the past 22 years, originally from Colorado, but have lived everywhere. Got here and decided to kind of set the circus down. And so my husband just retired after 22 years in the Air Force. And then I've got 2 kiddos, one that's a freshman in college up at Liberty University, and then a daughter who is a junior at Wando High School.
Yeah. And we always joke around because her husband is like the Captain America.
Yes.
And he's like, he flew the last plane out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And,
Google him. Hot topic. Yeah.
Hot topic.
Yeah.
He plays golf as well.
Plays a lot of golf. Yep. He had a TED Talk this last year. He's traveling all over speaking and stuff now. So, yeah.
So how's it for you to be married to Captain America?
Most of the time it's really good.
Yeah.
I think that, the being a military spouse is not easy. But we really did enjoy it, and it was an adventure. I think that the whole thing of all of the attention and everything around the Afghanistan stuff was awesome, but it was also a really tough time. He was going through a tough time and not able to totally process everything with the family. And so then, he came home. We were super excited that he was home, but there was also some things we had to work through. And so there was kind of that opposite side of it. But overall, it is wonderful being married to Captain America. But I'm also excited that, that he's done, and, he'll still be gone, but he won't be gone for a year at a time.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
How is that anyway? I always wondered of very much your life was determined by military, of like where to go, of you supporting, you kind of gave your yes to that as well. And then on the other hand, you are at home with your children, balancing out. It's like letting go, but still owning and being responsible. How important was it for you always, even in the past, to make sure that you're in a good place, you're strong, and how do you maintain this?
Yeah. Well, I was like 12 when we got married, so I had no idea what I was signing up for. It just sounded like an adventure. And it really is one of those things that's magnified. Like when things are good, they're good. And when things are bad, they're terrible. And so I struggled a lot with postpartum depression and, being away from family, and then he would be gone. And then, I'm at home with babies. And there were some really dark times. I do think that it strengthened us overall. But I can look back and, the times that we were in a good place, it was fine. And then the times where we were, walking through tough stuff, that was an added thing that was difficult. But again, I wouldn't change it. I think that it made us who we are. I think it made our kids who they are. They're very resilient. They're very,
They're wonderful
able.
children.
They really are. And I think, being military kids is really a big part of that. They had to have adversity in their lives that most kids don't. And I think that the repercussion of that was the maturity and stuff that they have.
Yeah. Well, I talked about it, I think, with Alex, your husband, one day, and it's really just like, we honor our military so well here in the States, but what we often forget is the family at home, the spouse at home, and just how much, like you just said, Rebecca, how much you're a part of it and how much you are sacrificing, not just your spouse, not just the people who go, but the people who stay. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and we've been really blessed too by the friends in the military that really become your family. We have a very close-knit group of friends that, even though we're all over the place, that we made really early on, and a lot of them came from real solid foundations. And I think that as we were both came from families that didn't have great examples of what marriage should look like, what godly marriage should look like, we were able to kind of surround ourselves with people who did. And I think that made a huge difference versus trying to kind of figure it out on our own, knowing only what we didn't want to do, and not really having a plan in place for what we did.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You not having, saying, good examples of how marriage can look like. Do you remember, what was your motivation? Why did you even got married? What was your hope?
I think that when I met Alex, he represented the opposite of everything I had known, and so I think that one, I wanted to get away. And then two, he represented, he already had a really strong relationship with Christ. He was very committed to his faith. And so there was so much security in that for me, of like, oh, this is a guy that's not going to walk out the door. And, this is a guy that has these godly principles. And I was so, attracted to that, and so drawn to that. And then, so I think that was a big part of it, he almost represented what I wished for or what I wanted to have, and didn't have, growing up.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's just go back a bit, replay a bit to the very first round that you went through. I think it was the second round, and the time that you got in there. What was your big takeaway from the first round?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this over the weekend and trying to come up with how to describe unstoppable, because everybody, it's something different for everybody. And this is what I came up with. Do you ever watch those extreme makeover home editions? Have you ever seen these? Right? And they go, they go in, they totally renovate this house, and then they go move that bus, and then it's this house, unrecognizable. So me becoming a Christian was that, right? Life is unrecognizable, but there was still cracks in the foundation. Yeah. There was still leaky pipes. Unstoppable has been, unfortunately, every round a new leaky pipe or crack in the foundation that that God has kind of illuminated for me. And so each round has been uncovering something that I maybe didn't even know was there, but was holding me back, or that was keeping me from really living in abundance, really growing, really being who God wanted me to be. And so each round kind of has had its own thing. And so the first round, really the big takeaway for me was coming face to face with a lifetime of disordered eating and body image issues. I think that I had dealt with anorexia and bulimia all through, high school and college. And in my own mind, because I wasn't anorexic anymore, it was fine. It was cured. And God really kind of revealed to me, like, no, this is still where you spend a lot, all of your time, attention, money, thoughts, this is an idol. And it still is this, diet mentality, this my worth is tied to my weight, or, you know, and so it was really kind of a wake up call of like, this is just as disordered as, you know, what was going on before. And until you're able to take this away as the most important thing in your life, God can't be the most important thing. So that was round one. And, you know, like I said, every round was something else. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure many of our viewers, listeners, will be able to identify with what you're saying. So how did God reveal that? And how did you like take a step? As you're saying, I'm sure, you know, there's still challenges along the way and all that kind of stuff, but you had a breakthrough in those 90 days. What did that look like?
I think it was really going through the content and looking back at what had kind of made me who I was, and you know, a lot of my family of origin issues that I was still carrying, and that was a really big one. And I had never, I think, put that together, that was a learned behavior. It was just kind of always there. And so it really took, I mean, like, you know, with the help of some of the other coaches and stuff, I literally went through my house and got every diet book, every calorie counter, every scale, and threw them in the trash.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Cool.
Wow.
And, you know, and then, you know, but like you said,
come on,
then
let's go.
But then it's been the not going back to it, you know. It really isn't a one-time thing, but it was also then going through that, okay, then this is where I've been getting my value from. I can't just throw that out and not replace it with something. And so what am I gonna replace it with? Where am I going to see my value from? That's gonna fill that void, because that's what it had been always, was, you know, needing to be, you know, to feel like I fit in, needing to feel like I was wanted, you know, and that I had to fit something, you know, physical, and that was where my worth came from. And so it had to be unlearned, and then something else had to come along and replace it.
Yeah. And what did that look like? What was that new thing that?
I mean, I already had, you know, a relationship with God, but I just don't think that I was really seeing him as this loving father. And like that's a weird concept for me, because I didn't experience that growing up. And so being able to actually feel like a loving God's embrace, a loving father's embrace for the first time. Yeah. And again, because that was such a foreign concept, it took kind of allowing that to come in, and then being able to hear and actually believe, like, you're a child of God. You know, I made you exactly how I wanted you. You know, I love you exactly how you are. Like, you know, I have heard that for years and years, but it took, I think it was that first round where I really felt it for the first time. Yeah.
That is so good.
So cool.
You know, I think that's what Lyndon is talking about, is just such a central part also to the 90-day process. And like, so for the first month, we're looking at all the things that are holding you back, where we have what we call own your story and know your enemy. And it's great. It's awesome. But it's difficult. It's challenging. And just like you said, Lyndon, you start digging into topics that you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that was there. And it becomes really difficult to tackle and to talk through and to be vulnerable about and all that kind of stuff. But then you have to go into month 2, where what are you replacing it with? What are you actually, you know, how, and looking at how God made you and looking at your identity in him. And I love that. That's just, for me, that's so rewarding to hear that you really felt God's love. Because, you know, a lot, you know, Unstoppable Growth isn't a self-help Christian book. Right. Or self-help course. Yeah. It's really the power of God. Yeah. And it's, you know, the his love, his power, his identity in your life will really transform. It's a supernatural intervention from him. And that's what, you know, we not only we wish for or believe in, it's something that we actually experience. And so that's awesome to hear that.
Yeah, one thing I want to just mention, Lyndon, is my parents were divorced, and I didn't have a relationship with my father. And it's something I uncovered post Unstoppable. No problem saying God, Lord, Jesus.
Yeah.
I really struggled with, and you always say it when you're praying, my Father in heaven.
Yeah.
And I think it was hearing you say it all the time, Tim. I'm like, I'm really uncomfortable saying my Father in heaven because I didn't know the love of a father. Yeah. And it takes a while to overcome it. And now, like, I force myself when I pray to now say, my Father in heaven.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Because I just want to work through it.
Yeah.
I've experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
And so when you think about your experience praying it, helped you see it? Were there any other things that helped you see his love for you?
I know the Lord loves me. I just struggled with the word father.
Yeah.
Because my parents got divorced at 10 and I didn't see my father again until his funeral. So it was just, I've always had, I guess, an issue with the word father or dad, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So I just never said Father in heaven, unless I was saying the Our Father, but that was it.
Yeah.
And it's just something I kept on saying, and now it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever doubted the Lord loves me. I've got plenty of other issues, but like it was saying my Father. It was definitely a hurdle.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that you said the same thing from your background.
Wow.
What impact would you even say had first Unstoppable on your marriage, on your family, with everything that you went through? Was that what you were struggling? Was this something that impacted your relationship anyway? Or was it more, this was an internal struggle that you didn't realize it was so big and it is impacting?
Sure. I mean, I think, you can't have something like that and have it not impact, the family. And, the huge thing for Alex and I has always been breaking generational bondage. And we have so much in our family on both sides. And that was something that we came into our marriage as a top priority. But again, if you're carrying that baggage without even realizing it, and, having a daughter and not wanting her to, carry that with her. And so I had always been very conscious of like not making comments about, oh, I need to lose weight, or, oh, she looks good or not around Izzy. But I didn't always follow that up with my behavior. And so, for me to, say it, but then, oh yeah, I'm starting this new diet on Monday, doesn't match up. And she's still then, seeing that. And Jacob too, like, I think I always thought about, oh, only daughters can, but sons can absolutely have the same problems with body image and stuff. And so, not kind of matching up my life with what I was saying or what I was wanting to do, and then actually transitioning to, I'm gonna do this, and and it's not, it's great to be healthy, it's great to exercise, but that it can become an idol like anything else, and if it does, then it can be a problem. So
yeah, that's so good. We've elevated. We talk about 5 different capitals at Unstoppable: spiritual, relational, physical, intellectual, and financial. And in that order, that's what we feel, what we believe is the God-given order of those capitals. So it's much more important to have a spiritual capital and have a relationship to God than even relationship to each other. But then it's much more important to have relationship than have, physical capital and so on. But I feel like the world around us has elevated, physical capital to the very top. And it's under the sort of cover of being healthy.
Sure. Yeah.
It's actually looking good. It's actually gaining our identity by how we look and how we impress others and all that. And so that's an amazing testimonial from you, an amazing story. And I think it speaks to a lot of us that while physical capital is important, that we stay healthy and whatever, it's not the most important thing.
Yeah. It's interesting too, when we went through our roles, and then when we went through like the Enneagram, that was another thing where, you're learning about who you are and how God made you, but then you have to match that up with the life that you're living, and kind of go, okay, so, I'm a very typical 3, right? And that's great in some ways, but that part of me what's taking over in a negative way, and I think that performer and the striver, it really can take over for that of, I need to succeed, I need to look good, I need to, have people think that, good things about me. And so I think that even just going through that and going, okay, yes, this is how God made me, but am I am I using that in a way that glorifies God, or am I using that in a way to glorify myself?
Yeah.
So that was the other, I think, content from the book that really helped kind of that transitioning.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know when I'm teeing up this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, we're going to go through to the next round,
Okay.
and then we're going to go to dig into something else that you've overcome. And I hope you're
How
not.
much time we got? I think this is round 5, and I think I've got 5, and I know we don't have time for that. So yes, we'll touch the highlights.
But it's so good because you're so open and vulnerable, and that's so helpful to everybody who's listening in. So round 2.
Yep. All right. So.
What did you overcome this time?
Yep. So round 2. And I think it was actually in between the rounds, or we had just started and I was coaching, and I was on a baseball tournament in Florida, and I was just really feeling conflicted and, wasn't really sure what was going on. And I was walking down, we were staying at a hotel that was by the water, and I was walking down where the boats were, and I literally looked up, and there was a boat that said Kairos in the name of it. I think I took a picture and sent it to you guys. Yeah. And there was this just moment of clicking where I realized that there was the life that I was living, and then the life that God had for me, and the space between the two was because of alcohol. And again, we have lots of family history of addiction. And so in my mind, I think that I had this justification of like, never had a DUI. I've never been arrested. I've never, been in rehab. And so I'm not an alcoholic. And, but it was that realization of like, you don't have to be, if this is keeping you from the life that God has for you, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, what I realized is that, it's called a gray area drinker, which I think a lot of people are identifying with. And what that means is I don't have a physical addiction. I'm not an alcoholic, but this is taking, again, a part of my life, too much of a part of my life, and it's keeping me from what God has for me. So what am I gonna do about it?
Yeah.
And do I really want that life that God has for me, that abundance that He has for me, or do I kind of want to keep living this way? So yeah.
That is such a powerful thing, because that gray area with alcohol, I think, as you said, so many of us are living in it. And I've already shared this about 3 times on the podcast, but I went through a similar experience like you, where Rebecca would also say, make sure that you say that you weren't getting drunk every night on alcohol. But I did put a lot of my hope, I would even say.
Mm-hmm.
So like after a hard day's work, after a hard meeting, after, where a situation where I've invested so much energy in, and I just want to relax. Mm-hmm. My first thought was that old fashioned, back home. Mm-hmm. And I realized when my first thought is an alcoholic drink, it's got me. Yeah. It's got me. Yeah. And there should be nothing, that I do in my everyday life that has me. Mm-hmm. And that was the reason I felt like God speaking to me. And you were very instrumental also in helping me. So like it was like just I've never given you this feedback, but like when I going through it and just thinking to myself, okay, what, actually going. And how helpful is this? Is this something that I should let go of? What happens when I go to a wedding? Mm-hmm. What happens when, I want to take a drink on Friday? And do I go all out and not drink alcohol? And I just, hearing your story and just how you went through that process, and then thinking about all the other people that are going through a similar process, and just wanting to experience freedom myself, but also wanting to be a person that sets an example of for others of what freedom could look like. Yeah. And so thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I've learned so much going through that, one being how many people, experience this at some point, and even, in the church, not in the church, it doesn't really matter. Learning that alcohol is the only drug you have to explain not using. Nobody's like, oh, you're not doing crack today? How come you're not doing crack? Someone's like, you're not having a drink. Why aren't you having a drink? Yeah. And so, our culture is so alcohol focused that it makes it really difficult to say, hey, this is something I'm not going to do anymore. And so it's a lot more challenging, I think, than, just okay, I shouldn't be doing this because of the way that our culture kind of revolves around it. And so I think it's a good conversation to continue to have, because I think a lot of people are in that boat. And I think the more that we make it okay and normal to just be like, okay, I drink, I don't, okay, no difference. And, the more that people can get comfortable with that, the more it won't feel so alienating if you don't.
Yeah.
So.
I think it touches on people coming from a background where you have been in a house or a family where there was a lot of alcohol drink.
Yeah.
I came from, my dad didn't drink any alcohol. My mum didn't drink any alcohol. There was no alcohol in the house. But I'm a 7 on the Enneagram.
Yeah.
I want to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to break out, and I want to, so I broke out at a very early age and started drinking. And it's always been a part of my life, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But it's been absolutely awesome to actually stop drinking alcohol. I'm like 6 months in, and I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for the process and for the examples.
And Lyndon, you quit none of it.
I went a year, and then since then I went a full year. Like when we were in Europe, I had a glass of wine, and I've just been very cognizant of it. But even with that, I think I'm still trying to figure out, like, do you play with fire?
Yeah.
And so I would say that I'm living a mostly alcohol-free life, and I think that again, setting that example for my children, and and then just not messing with something that has the potential. And so my goal is very much to have a mostly alcohol-free life, and be very cognizant of if I do.
I only ask because I don't drink as much as I used to, but I still do drink.
Yep.
And I hear Tim tell his story. How many times have I heard Tim tell his story about quitting alcohol?
Yeah.
25, 30 times. And I feel like I'm being told something.
Yes,
John.
Yes.
I think as part of the thing too of like, with learning more and more about gray area drinking, is it doesn't necessarily have to be that you stop forever, but you have to be aware of what it is. It's an addictive substance. And so at some point you will. And so again, like how close do you want to go to that cliff? And, can you take a few steps back and then still take a step forward without falling? And it's an individual thing. It's something that I think everybody has to decide for themselves without judgment, but it is nice to hear, more and more people are at least having these conversations and going, well, I think I want to do this, but what about this? And well, here's how it worked for me. And just being able to be open about it. And I think that's, just a powerful thing, even to say like, well, maybe God's saying something to me and I'm going to think about that.
Because I had a bad drinking problem for a long time, like to the point where I would drink to get drunk, and I have gotten in trouble because of drinking. But I was able to scale back, right? It's like, well, I just have a couple after work, and I've been justifying that as well. It's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
But I am starting to hear a message here.
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's not. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
What is different now? I mean, you said before with the first challenge with like body image, and now with alcohol, and you said the gray zone. Why? What is God? Do you experience something different since you made those intentional decisions, or?
I'm much more present, I think, is the biggest thing, and I feel like, honestly, I just feel like my relationship with God is much closer. Like that was a barrier, and it wasn't God's barrier, it was my barrier, but that taking down that barrier, I'm just able to experience God in new and closer ways that I wasn't before. And so it's just that, that closeness, that intimacy. It's real hard to do your, quiet time when you got a little bit of hangover. And so, not having that, and even just waking up that earlier, and even, even with just a couple glasses of wine, you just don't want to get up the next morning. You feel kind of groggy versus like, hey, I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I've got my time and I'm looking forward to it because I, feel good to do it. So it's even that gives you your life back, I guess, to the time and the energy.
So good. All right, so good. Moving on. What are we moving on to now?
I'm jotting down notes. For myself.
For yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Maybe you can put them into the show notes.
Yeah.
And then everybody can benefit from.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have me on in 6 months.
There you go.
But so you've gone through the different rounds of Unstoppable. By the way, anybody who's listening in or watching, you can go to unstoppablegrowth.org and you will see when the next round is, and you can sign up. There's a wait list if the registration isn't open, and so you can join the wait list, and then we'll give you information as quickly as possible about when you can sign up.
And if they have questions, I think they can email you directly from the website.
Yeah.
And you'll respond?
Yeah.
Someone will?
I will respond. It's me, myself, and my wife at the moment. It is literally
company.
on the top right you'll see contact, and you can just push that button, and that goes directly to our inbox. And so we're excited to connect with anybody who's listening or watching in. But you also went through the process of becoming a coach, and we now have 27 coaches, I believe, and we have 7 coaches in training. Brian is in training at the moment. We're so excited. Everybody who goes through the Unstoppable program also has the option of becoming a coach and gets a whole nother 90-day coaching process, which is really incredible. And so tell us a little bit about that. How's coaching been?
Yeah. The coaching training was so incredible. And I can't even tell you, Alex and I talk about this all the time, how much we use unstoppable tactics, in other situations, and so, I do a lot of work with the high school girls, and, even just people at work, just people, that, coaching, like if somebody comes to you with a problem, rather than giving them an answer, asking questions until they get to their own, just all of the things that you learn. And so, it has really changed how I interact with people. And so going through and coaching, and then going through the coach's training was just incredible. The content, and then just the ability to interact with people in that different way has been awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your why statement has something to do with generational breakthrough and everything. And do you feel like you were able to live out your why statement as a coach? Yeah. And if so, how?
Yeah, I think that it's a ever evolving process. Like I said, I would have said that I was doing that, and then, God kind of revealed to me, like, here's an area where you're not, you're kind of doing the same thing that your parents did. And so, what are you going to do about that? And so I think that each round, whether you're a participant or a coach, I'm, a little bit excited and a little bit terrified of, what's going to be the next revelation. But it really has just been each time you go deeper. And so, so continuing to, yes, I'm living out my why statement, but I'm also learning every round what that looks like at a deeper level, and getting to go deeper each time.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you run the Mighty Networks, which is the online community. So everybody who joins Unstoppable joins an online community and is able to, participate in that. What does that look like?
Yeah. And so it's been really awesome, because as we have grown, at first it kind of had the feel of like a small group, but then it started getting bigger and bigger. And it, we didn't want that community piece to go away, because I feel like, we come for the content, but we stay for the people and the relationships. And so how do we do that on this thing that's, growing, outside of the US, it's growing outside of Seacoast. And so we decided to create an online community, and on a platform. And so it's basically our own Facebook, as I guess the best way. So we can have different groups of the people that are, the coaches and the participants, and, different things that people have of interest, and, people can post things, and, and so it's just a place where all Unstoppables, alumni, new, everybody can still be a part of that community.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible to, to be able to do that, and to see how it's, transformed and grown. And, even people that maybe did it a while ago and, come back and are like, oh, wow, this is great. And we do different, you guys do prayer requests, and which people absolutely love. And, we do little mini growth spurts each week of, little mini testimonies. And I think it's just a great way to keep connected to the material and to each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just like you said, you go through 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and you can stay connected and build and keep building on that. I talked to one couple who took a break this time round, which is absolutely fine. But they were itching, totally itching, because they were like, we haven't done our vision board. And I'm like, I know, and so I'm the same. Like, if I'm not a part of a community where I get accountability, I don't, I wouldn't do the vision board. Even though I think it's so important, even though it's a part of the plan that we've all created, but it's so good to have that accountability and be a part of that community.
Absolutely.
As an early Unstoppable member, and then a coach and a board member, like, what are you most excited about for the future of Unstoppable?
It is the unlimited breakthrough potential, because there has not been a single round where we haven't seen people's lives radically changed, and so that just continuing to grow and multiply, it is just exciting, because again, even people that have been in the church for a really long time are coming in and breaking chains and breaking barriers that have been in place for a long, long time. And we've gotten to see that every single round. And so just to watch that grow exponentially is the part that I'm the most excited about.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen people who have, grown up in the church and have a relationship from an early age go through Unstoppable and see breakthroughs. And then people who just found God recently go through Unstoppable and they're on fire for God. So it is for wherever you are in your kind of journey with Christ.
Absolutely.
I'm even excited about, like, we've had at every round, we've had people that don't, have this relationship like we would describe with our Father in heaven, with Jesus or whatever, and they're like, and they're sort of like outside looking in, and it's been great to have those conversations, and some of them have made a decision to follow Christ and join the fam. Some of them have decided not to, and just remained a little bit on the side, which is up to them, which is fine. Of course, we long for everybody to experience his love, just like you said, and his transformational power, but not all of us step into it. Rebecca?
What is your encouragement? I mean, what I love about you is just hearing your openness. Like you said, so nice. Every round you discover new pipes that have cracks or something. That you're not afraid to discover them. You're not afraid to have them exposed, and you're not afraid to work on them with the hunger for whatever you're going after. So how do you keep on allowing being exposed almost with the challenges? Because you could think, even you saying, hoping to live a life that the legacy is different than maybe what you experienced. All the areas you mentioned still work. It's not, I realized alcohol could be a problem, no more problem. Oh, my body, no more problem. All the areas is still something that requires attention and work and submission to God. So how comes that you're still saying, but if the new pipe is coming? What's to keep on going with that?
I think it is, and I've heard other folks in Unstoppable say it this way, of like, when I took that first step of feeling like, okay, this is something that I need to speak out and bring into the light, because it's been in the darkness, and, bring it into the light, and you're sitting there waiting for everyone to go and walk away. And then when you do that and they don't, and they stay and they walk through it with you, but then it makes that next time that much easier. And I think that we've all kind of experienced that, and that's part of that breakthrough of you're seeing other people, and you're seeing, okay, they got vulnerable, but then they had the breakthrough. And that's what I've experienced, is like, every time that I have put myself out there and been vulnerable, breakthrough has come right after that. Or maybe not right after that, but breakthrough has come after that.
Come on.
And so, it makes it, where I almost want to be like, all right, God, keep digging. And like I said, it's exciting and terrifying. But there has not been a single time where when God was like, bring this to the light, and I did it, that he did not just turn around and bless me. And so that, him being so faithful to me has made it much easier to continue to be open and vulnerable.
And is it also sometimes, in the moment, we don't know what's a breakthrough for. But it's even a preparation what's maybe to come. So even health challenges or family things, just imagine you would not have done the work. And you have to face now everything you're in while you still have the old
Yeah.
baggage with you, you know. And so sometimes it's really the trust to God for something we don't even know yet, but still seeing in the now, I'm worth it.
Mhm.
I'm his beloved, and
Yeah.
he wants me to see free.
Yeah.
And I don't know what tomorrow holds,
Yeah.
but like in the now, I can experience the breakthrough.
Yeah.
So my encouragement is, even for people, if you're just reading the book and you're feeling, I don't really have the breakthrough I'm longing for, sign up for a course.
Yeah.
Because the key thing is having people going through with you.
Yeah.
So like I can read the question, what is God saying to me, and write it down, and I can have someone asking me, hey, what is God saying to you? And I have to answer it, and it's totally different.
Yeah.
Because this person can maybe follow up or encourage me in something which I will miss out if I'm doing alone.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Coming to the close now, and just thinking about everybody who's listening in and viewing this, and also wants to experience that breakthrough, and is also sort of on the edge of being vulnerable or not being vulnerable, of shall I sign up or shall I not, or, you know, it's tough work, you know, and that's what I love about you, Lyndon. You have gone through the tough work, the hard work, and you're willing to go through it again and again and again. And I think,
and helping others going through.
And the reward on the other side has just been amazing. And it's been such a journey for us as well. It's the same thing that we feel like, you know, the vulnerability hasn't only changed us, but it's also created relationships, because we connect with each other through our weaknesses. We don't connect with each other when everybody's strong and presents themselves in, I'm capable of this and that and the other. And in a world where we love to present ourselves, presentation is so important. People are just so hungry for people who would show weakness, demonstrate, where God is leading them for change, and go through that painful process of transformation. So thank you for being so open and vulnerable with us on the Unstoppable Growth podcast. Let's go. Would you take a minute just to pray with our listeners and viewers?
Absolutely. Father God, I'm just so thankful for Unstoppable. I'm so thankful for the Lindsays, for the way that they have poured into my family, and me and my marriage and my kids, and just the way that they have taken their knowledge and their experiences and used it to bless so many people, God. And I pray for that exponential growth and breakthroughs for everybody, God, that that is out there needing and waiting and wanting that breakthrough. God, I just pray over them now, that you would just start that stirring that will lead to that breakthrough, God. And I just thank you for this community. I thank you for the people that are helping to support us, and I thank you for everything that you have just done for us and the way that you have blessed us. Thank you, Father God, just for loving us, for loving me despite me, and just never letting me go, God. I just am so grateful. Amen.
Amen.